भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 16, the divine and demonic natures. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Abhayam Sattva Samsute Jnana Yoga Vyavastiti Danam Damascha Yagnascha Swadhyayastapa Archavam Ahimsa Satyam Akrodhas Tyaga Shantir Apeshunam Daya Bhutesha Alulapvam Mardvam Hari Achapalam Tejasham Madri Chodam Adroho Nati Manita Bhavanti Sampadam Daivim Abhijatasya Bharata.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault-finding, compassion for all living entities, freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from envy and from the passion for honor. These transcendental qualities, O son of Bharat, belong to godly men endowed with divine nature.
Text 4. Dambodharpobhimanascha krodha parushyam eva cha agnanam chapi jatasya partha sampadam asurim.
Pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance. These qualities belong to those of demonic nature, O son of Pritha.
Text 5. Devi sampada vimokshaya nibandhaya surimata masu cha sampadam devim abhijatoshi pandava.
Transcendental qualities are conducive to liberation, whereas the demoniac qualities make for bondage. Do not worry, O son of Pandu, for you are born with the divine qualities.
Text 6. Dvau bhuta sargau lokesmin deva asura evacha devo vistarasha Urta asuram partha me shrunu.
O son of Pritha, in this world there are two kinds of created beings. One is called the divine and the other demoniac. I have already explained to you at length the divine qualities. Now hear from me of the demoniac.
Oh, what text is it? 7. Hold on, got it wrong now. Text 7. Pravrutim cha nivrutim cha janana vidur ashura na shocham na pichacharo na satyam teshu vidyate.
Those who are demoniac do not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. Neither cleanliness nor proper behavior nor truth is found in them.
Text 8. Asatyama pratistha. Start again. Asatyama pratistha tam te jagatahur anishwaram aparaspara sambhutam kimanyata kam haitukam.
They say that this world is unreal, with no foundation, no God in control. They say it is produced of sex desire and has no cause other than lust.
Text 9. एतां दृष्टिम् अवस्थाप्य नष्टात्मानो बुद्धय प्रभावन्त्य ऊर्ध्वकर्मण क्षयाय जगतो हिते.
Following such conclusions, the demoniac, who are lost to themselves and who have no intelligence, engage in unbeneficial, horrible works meant to destroy the world.
Text 10. काममाश्रित्य दुष्पुरं दम्भमान मदान्विता मोहात् गृहीत्वा सद्ग्राहान् प्रवर्तन्ते शुचिव्रता.
Taking shelter of insatiable lust and absorbed in the conceit of pride and false prestige, the demoniac, thus illusioned, are always sworn to unclean work, attracted by the impermanent.
Text 11 and 12. चिन्तामाप्रिमयं च प्रलयन्तम् उपाश्रित कामोपभोगपरमा एताविदिति निश्चित आशापाशते बद्धा कामक्रोध परायण इहन्ते कामभोगार्थम् अन्ययन् अर्था सञ्चयम्.
They believe that to gratify the senses is the prime necessity of human civilization. Thus, until the end of life, their anxiety is immeasurable. Bound by a network of hundreds of thousands of desires and absorbed in lust and anger, they secure money by illegal means for sense gratification.
Text 13, 14 and 15. Idamādya maya labdham imam prapsye manoratham idamaspidamapi me bhavishyati punarthanam asau maya hata shatrur anisye chaparanapi ishvaroham aham bhogi siddho हम बलवान सुखी आद्योऽपि जानवान् no, I'll start again, sorry. आद्योऽपि जानवान् अस्मि कोऽन्योऽस्ति सदृशो मया यक्षये दास्यामि मोदिस्य इत्यज्ञान विमोहिता.
The demoniac person thinks, so much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future, more and more. He is my enemy, and I have killed him, and my other enemies will also be killed. I am the Lord of everything. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect, powerful, and happy. I am the richest man, surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices. I shall give some charity, and thus I shall rejoice. In this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance.
Text 16. अनेक चित विभरन्ता मोहजाल समावृता प्रसक्ता कामभोगेषु पतन्ति नरकेषु च.
Thus, perplexed by various anxieties and bound by a network of illusions, they become too strongly attached to sense enjoyment and fall down into hell.
17. आत्मा संभवित शब्द धन मान मदान्विता यजन्ते नाम यज्ञस्ते दम्भेन विधि पूर्वकम्.
Self-complacent and always impudent, deluded by wealth and false prestige, they sometimes proudly perform sacrifices in name only, without following any rules and regulations.
Text 18. अहङ्कारं बलं दर्पं कामं क्रोधं च संश्रिता मामात्मा परदेहेषु प्रद्विषन्तो भयासुयखा.
Bewildered by false ego, strength, pride, lust, and anger, the demons become vicious, envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in their own bodies and in the bodies of others, and blaspheme against the real religion.
Text 19. Tanaham Vishta Kuraran Sansaresu Narad Naradhaman Shripanyajrashram Ashubhan Asuri Sveva Yonishu.
Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demonic species of life.
Text 20. Asurim Yonim Apana Mutta Janmani Mama Prapaye Mama Prapaye Paiva Mama Prapaiva Konteya Tato Yantyadhamam Gatim.
Attaining repeated birth amongst the species of demoniac life, O son of Kunti, such persons can never approach me. Gradually, they sink down to the most abominable type of existence.
Text 21. Trividam Narkashayedam Varam Nasanam Atmanam Kama Krodhastatha Lobhas Tasmadetat Trayam Tyajet.
There are three gates leading to this hell: lust, anger, and greed. Every sane man should give these up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul.
Text 22. Etirvimutta Kunteya Tamodvares Tribhiranara Achartaya Atmana Shreyastato Yati Param Gatim.
The man who has escaped these three gates of hell, O son of Kunti, performs acts conducive to self realization and thus gradually attains the supreme destination.
Text 23. Yashastra Utshrutya Vartate Kamakarata न स सिद्धिमवाप्नोति न सुखं न परां गतिम्.
He who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection nor happiness, nor the supreme destination.
Text 24. तस्माच्छास्त्रं परमाणं ते कार्यव्यवस्थितौ ज्ञात्वा शास्त्रविधानोक्तं कर्म कर्तुमिहार्हसि.
One should therefore understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulations of the scriptures. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that he may gradually be elevated.
Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta translation to the 16th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam in the matter of the divine and demonic natures. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for that recitation, Mataji and Deepak Prabhu. Thank you very much. So, we will be discussing text number 20 today. But how does everybody feel after reciting a chapter of Bhagavad Gita? This is the power of reading Srila Prabhupada's books and especially the Bhagavad Gita, because each verse is directly emanating from the lotus mouth of either the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna or his pure devotee Arjuna. So, and that's why the as it is edition of Bhagavad Gita is the edition from which everyone should read Bhagavad Gita, because In the word-to-word translation also, Prabhupada is given as it is, whereas the other commentaries, what people have done is they have taken out their meanings and added something to the Bhagavad Gita. So it's very important that the edition you all have should be Bhagavad Gita as it is. So I'm just going to now bring up my screen so we can have a discussion on today's verse. Discussing Asurim yonim apana mutta janmani janmani mam arpe aprapeya konteya tato yanti adhamam gatim. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Attaining repeated birth amongst the species of demoniac life, O son of Kunti, such persons can never approach me. Gradually they sink down to the most abominable type of existence. It is known that God is all merciful, but there we find that God is never merciful to the demoniac. It is clearly stated that the demoniac people, life after life, are put into the wombs of similar demons, and not achieving the mercy of the Supreme Lord, they go down and down, so that at last they achieve bodies like those of cats and dogs and hogs. It is clearly stated that such demons have practically no chance of receiving the mercy of God at any stage of later life. In the Vedas also it is stated that such persons gradually sink to become dogs and hogs. It may be then argued in this connection that God should not be advertised as all merciful if he is not merciful to such demons. In answer to this question in the Vedanta Sutra, we find that the Supreme Lord has no hatred for anyone. The placing of the asuras, the demons, in the lowest status of life is simply another feature of his mercy. Sometimes the asuras are killed by the Supreme Lord, but this killing is also good for them. For in the Vedic literature, we find that anyone who's killed by the Supreme Lord becomes liberated. There are instances in history of many asuras, Ravana, Kamsa, Hiranyakashipu, to whom the Lord appeared in various incarnations just to kill them. Therefore, God's mercy is shown to the asuras if they are fortunate enough to be killed by them. I'll repeat the verse translation again. Attaining repeated birth amongst the species of demoniac life, O son of Kunti, such persons can never approach me. Gradually, they sink down to the most abominable type of existence. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyat Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhube Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. So welcome once again, everybody. We also have one more guest who has joined us today for the first time in chat is Deepak Prabhu, all the way from Canary Wharf. He was with another wonderful devotee in Dubai. And this evening we had a very nice conversation. And I told him about the chat group we have. So I think Deepak Prabhu has also joined us. So welcome, Deepak Prabhu. So here we see, just to give you a bit of a background, this is the last verse of this particular section where the demoniac nature is being explained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And within that, before Krishna started to speak about the demoniac nature, he gave the two broad categories under which these people come in. One is the materialist people who are engaged only for working for themselves, only for their own enjoyment, which is called sense gratification, or Prahlad Maharaj calls it in 7th canto, chewing the chewed. Or the second broad category is the impersonalist, which is ultimately say that the material world does not exist and it has no connection to the absolute. And obviously the link between the section 1 and the section 2 is, after having briefly explained the demoniac nature in the text 16.4, Krishna will now explain in detail in text 16.7 all the way to 20, which is today's verse. Arjuna will thus see that he himself, as well as his fighting, is free from demoniac tendencies. You see, the result of, sometimes one may ask the question, if spiritual world is so beautiful, why do I need to know about the material world? But the point is, unless we understand the futility of the material world, we cannot appreciate the spiritual world. Similarly, when we get to know that how difficult it is to survive in this material world is, only then there will be a desire to look for something which is above this material plane or the spiritual world. That is why the knowledge of the material world is very important in relation to the knowledge of the spiritual world. And that's what the complete knowledge is said to be: knowing what matter is, knowing what the spirit is, and knowing who the creator of these two things is, and their connection between the two. So now, being self-complacent and impudent, they are deluded by wealth and false prestige. This was the initial stage. So what we will do is, today, if we get an opportunity, I will see if we have any time left. We will do a quick recap from text 7 to 20 in bullet points of what were those demoniac qualities and how they affect us actually. And so in this particular verse, text 20, the theme is the fate of demoniac. What happens is, so such people who have such fate, they glide down to hell. Attaining repeated birth among demoniac species, such persons can never approach me. Gradually, they sink down to the most abominable type of existence. Srimad Bhagavatam 7th canto explains in detail different descriptions of different hell and what happens to a certain person when he commits a particular sinful activity and where he lands up in his next life, or in which kind of hell he is sent. We won't be able to go into the detail of it, but we will try to cover some elements of what those hells are, what are the names given by Sukadev Goswami, and how does one glide down into those hellish planets actually. But if you're interested, please refer to the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, I believe 26 or 27 chapter. That's why it's such an important, you see, in order to really understand the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada encouraged the devotees to read Srimad Bhagavatam side by side. So when you, in the morning, when you wake up after your chanting or before your chanting, whatever inspires you, read few pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. And in the evening, as the sun is setting, sharpen your intelligence or worship at the sun, like what we are doing. Worship Lord Krishna by our intelligence, by reciting a chapter of Bhagavad Gita and by discussing one shloka every evening. If you do this and chant the holy names of the Lord, the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and eat Krishna Prasadam, your life is perfected. You can perfect your life in this very life and go back to spiritual world. So now let's see what is being explained. So what Krishna is saying, they never attain me, is explained as follows. Life after life, they are put into demoniac wombs. They go down and down, and at last they achieve bodies like cats and dogs and hogs. And Prabhupada quotes this from he gives a reference of the Vedas, which states a similar fact. And what is the hope for them? Practically no chance of receiving God's mercy at any stage of life. You see, this human juncture, or the human body, is such an important junction of our life. Among the 8,400,000 species which are being given in Bhagavad Gita, human platform is the most sublime platform to achieve perfection in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, if you analyze your life and the life of animals, if we are simply eating, animals are also eating. If we are simply sleeping, animals are also sleeping. If we are simply mating, animals are also mating. And if we are simply defending out of fear, they are also defending. So if we carry on doing these four activities which animals are doing, Prabhupada calls us no better than two-legged animals. They are, most of them are four-legged, we are two-legged animals, and we are doing the same activities actually. So in order to utilize our human form of life, Krishna is telling us that try to think of me, man mana bhava mat bhakto, madhyaji mam namaskaru. He's saying, pay obeisances unto me, think of me, become my devotee, and you will, and that way engage your mind in 24 hours in thinking of me. And at that time of the death, whatever your consciousness is, you will attain to me. Otherwise, if we do not do that, if we then take a risk of engaging in sense gratification and thinking of only enjoying how I can bhog tyag, like how I can enjoy this world, and I give this up to take another thing, as Prahlad Maharaj calls it, chewing the chew, thinking this will give me happiness. Okay, I had a Mercedes, I sold the Mercedes, now I bought a BMW, now I'm buying a Ferrari, but it would never give us a satisfaction. The satisfaction comes from the things which you cannot actually buy from the money, and satisfaction is a state of mind. It is not a case of buying a product or feeling happy or experiencing some joy. That is a very momentarily joy. But if you really are looking for a satisfaction, it is a state of our mind, and that can only be achieved when we understand what is the peace formula. And the peace formula is given by Lord Krishna in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which we already discussed. Bhoktaram Yagda Tapasram Sarva Loka Maheshwaram Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam Gyatva Mam Shantim Rachati. That I am the Lord of all the sacrifices. I'm the one to whom all the sacrifices should be offered. I am the I am the Lord of all the planets. Also, I am the Lord of all the Devi Devatas. And I am the true benefactor of all the living entities. And one who knows this fact, he attains peace from the pangs of all the miseries. You see, it is such a beautiful shloka. Just by understanding, I know it can take a lifetime or sometime many lives, but at least we have begun the process. We are so fortunate having come in contact with the Bhagavad Gita as it is, book of Srila Prabhupada, and Srimad Bhagavatam, and we have the holy name. So we have every chance and a hope to really overcome this material energy and take to the spiritual energy of the Lord, and that way have protection. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Devi hi esha mama Devi hi esha mama mai
Devi hi esha
Devi
gunamayi mama maya
mama mai mama maya durataya. So this material divine energy, this material energy of mine is very difficult to overcome. But somehow, if we can surrender to the Lord, then we can easily overcome this energy actually. So there is every hope in that sense. And I'll share what is our biggest hope very shortly. But Krishna is saying, Prabhupada is saying there is some hope, because even those who take to the demoniac tendency, unless it is arranged by the Lord, then there is no hope. If it is arranged by the Lord, then there is some hope. So reference is given of all merciful Lord from Vedanta Sutra, where the Supreme Lord has no hatred for anyone. And another feature of his mercy is the placing of asuras in the lowest state of life is simply, as we heard from Prabhupada, is feature of his mercy. Like we know from the beautiful Srimad Bhagavatam, the whole episode of Jay and Vijay being cursed by the four Kumaras under the transcendental arrangement of the Lord, and being appeared as Ravana, appearing as Kumkaran, appearing as what were the other pastimes? Ravana, Kumkarna, and Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, and Kamsa, and who was the other personality?
Shishupal,
Sorry, yeah, not Kamsa, Shishupal and
Dantavakra.
Antavakra. Thank you so much. So that was a part of the so in that case the Lord is merciful, because he then allowed to enact those three pastimes so that these people or the living entities who appeared can be benefited by being killed by the Lord. That's why Prabhupada quotes that sometimes asuras are killed by the Lord so they get liberated. Example is Ravana, Kamsa. And part of Lord's mercy is how he reciprocates with the consciousness of the living entity. If a living entity desires to be in a position where he can have total forgetfulness of Krishna, while loading over the material energy, Krishna gives that position to him. If we want to enjoy, then Krishna will let us enjoy. But you see, we are very fortunate, even though we are full of all these demoniac tendency, yet we can totally accept these words of Srila Prabhupada, even though we are not in the category of being instructed by the Lord to come in as a Ravana and Kamsa. We are not even that fortunate to be killed by the Lord. But let's see who's able to, where am I hinting? Why are we so fortunate that even though we are not in that category, yet we have every chance? Why are we so fortunate? Can somebody give me an answer? Let me give you a bit of a hint and see if somebody can grasp this answer. We are so fortunate. Bhagavad Gita was spoken 5,000 years ago, but something so amazing happened with us only few years ago that we are now become so
Because
fortunate.
of appearance of Mahaprabhu and giving the holy name.
Prabhu,
Who was that? Who was that? Who said that?
because of books and devotees.
Okay. Who said Chaitanya Mahaprabhu earlier?
Saribol, Saribol Prabhu.
Nitai Mata.
Who's that Mata? Nitai Mata. Yes. The answer is we are fortunate because of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appeared 500 years ago in Bengal to inaugurate the International Society of Krishna Consciousness, even before Srila Prabhupada gave it a name. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's none other than Lord Krishna in the bhav of Srimati Radharani, descending this on this world to experience what a devotee feels in reciprocation or in love with the Lord. So in that mood, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and he went town to town liberating all the fallen souls. And he's still coming. He's going every town to town. We do not have that vision to see it. But anyone, Narottam Das Thakur says, anyone who takes in the pastimes, Sankirtan pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by distributing and by experiencing this nectar has an every opportunity, even though we may have such demoniac tendency, there is every hope for us to be able to be going back to spiritual world, even after having such bad tendencies in us. Otherwise, if we do not take that opportune moment and take advantage of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan moment, this will happen to us. So maybe we can have some devotee read this. Um, who can read it? Padma Malini Mataji, are you there? Would you like to read the first paragraph for us, if it is okay with you?
Hare Krishna Devanam Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. I'll try because of the screen. So which paragraph from Sukdev Goswami?
Yes, yes, Mataji.
Okay, Sukdev Goswami describes the following 28 hells. Tasmishra,
Ramishra. Yeah.
Tamishra,
I
yes.
read
Sorry,
it, Mataji. If you're struggling with the screen, I'll read it. Don't worry, it's okay. Thank
okay,
you for
sorry.
trying.
Okay.
No problem. Tamishara, Andha Tamishara, Rauravana, Maharvana, Maharava, Kumbhi Paka, Kala Sutra, Asi Patravana, Sukaramukha, Andha Kupa, Krimbi Bhojana, Sandamsha, Taptachurmi, Vajra Kantaka, Talmali, Vaitrani, Puyo, Pranarodha, Vishashana, Lala Bhashka, Bhaksha, Shara Meyadana, Avichi, Ayapana, Kasharak Kardama, Rakshogna, Bhojana, Shulaprota, Dantasukha, Avata Nirodhana, Paryavratana, and Suchimukha. These are the 28 hells described in Srimad Bhagavatam. We won't go into the detail of it, but let's see who would like to read the second paragraph for us to enlighten us how to stay away from these hells.
Can I read, Prabhu?
Anyone? Yeah, go ahead, Mataji.
Thank you. A person who steals another's money, wife, or possessions is put into the hell known as Tamishra. A man who tricks someone and enjoys his wife is put into the extremely hellish condition known as Andhatamisra. The foolish person, absorbed in the bodily concept of life, who, on the basis of this principle, maintains himself or his wife and children by committing violence against other living entities, is put into the hell known as Raurava. There, the animals he killed take birth as creatures called Rurus and cause great suffering for him. Those who kill different animals and birds and then cook them are put by the agents of Yamraj into the hell known as Kumbhipaka, where they are boiled in oil. A person who kills a Brahmana is put into the hell known as Kalasutra, where the land, perfectly level and made of copper, is as hot as an oven. The killer of Brahmana burns in that land for many years. One who does not follow scriptural injunctions, but who does everything whimsically or follows some rascal is put into the hell known as something happened, Prabhu.
Sorry, Mataji, one second.
Known as Asi Patravana, a government official who poorly administers justice or who punishes an innocent man, is taken by the assistance of Yamaraja to the hell known as Sukaramukha, where he is mercilessly beaten.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Nitai Mataji. So you see, I just wanted to give a glimpse of it because I don't want to end on a note which scares the hell out of us. But I'm ending on a sweet note that as devotees, we have every opportunity to completely not only what to speak of um, going past the hell, but to actually attain the path which is full of bedecked of jewels leading us directly to the spiritual world, following the path of our Mahajans like Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruv Maharaj, Bali Maharaj, um, Bhishma Pitama, all these 12 Mahajans, Yudhishthir Maharaj, we can follow and tread the same path through which they have gone to the spiritual world. So please try to understand how we are actually walking on a very sharp edge in our life. And we have to be very careful. Now that we have given this opportunity of having a human birth, we should really dedicate our time as much as possible for furthering Krishna consciousness, because by doing so we are completely, we may have done so many sinful activities, never mind, Srila Prabhupada says, but start now, take to the process of chanting, read Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and chant the holy name. Try to, even if you open one page of Bhagavatam and read one line, what to speak of one line, Garuda Puran says, if you have this book in your home, all the Devi Devtas come and reside and do the arti in that home. That's the potency of having Srimad Bhagavatam in your home. Imagine what will happen if you open that book. If there is such a glorification about a book like Bhagavatam, what will happen if you open the book? Just try to imagine. That's how wonderful that literature is. And similarly, Bhagavad Gita, Gita Upanishad, it is directly coming from the lotus mouth of Lord Krishna. So this I wanted to share with you a little commentary of Baladev Vidya Bhushan, which I found on this particular verse. It's quite something really nice to sort of go through it. And then we will quickly recap this section point by point, not taking much time. So anybody who would like to read the first two paragraphs of this commentary of Baladev Vidya Bhushan?
Which can I read, please?
Go ahead, Mataji, yes.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Arjuna may ask, but after many lifetimes, they should eventually receive your mercy, but by which they will be freed from their demonic births. Lord Krishna answers, these foolish persons take birth in demonic forms of life, birth after birth. Failing to achieve me, they descend to lower forms of life, even taking birth as dogs. In the phrase failing to achieve me, the word Eva certainly indicates there is no possibility of my mercy falling upon them. It is even difficult for them to achieve a good form of life that would be a prerequisite to obtaining me.
Thank you.
Can I
Who would like,
continue, Prabhuji?
maybe somebody else can
No,
read the
thank,
other.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
thank you.
Can I read?
Right. Yeah, go ahead, Mataji.
Yeah. The following question can then be raised, but the Supreme Lord automatically has his every desire fulfilled. He can make even the unqualified qualified. The answer is yes, he could, if he had such a desire. But actually, he does not have even the seed of that desire. Thus, the author of the Vedanta Sutra has described the Lord's partiality in the Sutra, Vanmaya Nargayena. The Supreme seems to be unfair because of his partiality to some and his enmity towards others. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. You see, from the Vedanta Sutra perspective, yes, There is no possibility. But our Acharya, our Param Acharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is making it possible because he's come to give what no other incarnation has given. Krishna said at the end of the chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharmam Parityaja Mam Ekam Sharanam Raja. He spoke the verse and he left. He went back to Golok. And Arjuna said, what a beautiful verse. Now, Arjuna was a perfected devotee. He could apply. Everybody else, like us, must be wondering since 5,000 or 4,500 years since Krishna left. Everybody must be thinking, how do I apply? How do I apply? How do I apply? And there we have, um, what is the name of the Panchatattva? So we have Shri Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar. Advaita Acharya is praying to Lord Krishna that please descend. The Kali Yuga has really at its peak now, and everybody is not, nobody is following religious principles. Please come down to give the highest truth to everybody. So on the behalf of all of us, Advaita Acharya was praying and offering Ganga Jal and Tulsi to his shaligrams. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard his prayers and Krishna heard his prayer and he appeared as Mahaprabhu to give us no other incarnation has given prema pumarto mahan, to give us pure love of God actually. So we are very, very fortunate. So this is a quick recap from the starting from the text 4. So the demoniac qualities were explained. In case if any one of you have missed these texts, so it will be a quick one so that we know what we have covered in these last sort of nearly 15, 16 verses or 17 verses rather. So in the text 4, these were the 4 qualities were spoken about: pride, anger, arrogance, conceit, harshness. Then the demoniac nature was further explained in the text 7. They do not know what is to be done, what is not to be done. They do not follow the Shastra. They are unclean. They have proper behavior and they are not truthful and self-centered. Then the philosophy of the demoniac tendency was spoken in the form of world is unreal with no God in control, as people say, especially Mayavadis, as we know. No cause other than lust, and thus this world is produced of sex desire. That was in 8 texts. From text 9 to 11 and 12, the attitude of the person who has the demoniac tendency is explained. The demoniacs are lost to themselves, illusion, and have no intelligence. Sense gratification is the prime necessity of human civilization. That was their attitude. And what are their engagements? They engage in unbeneficial, horrible works meant to destroy the world. And they secure money by illegal means for sense gratification. And then finally, the mentality was spoken in these texts, which are mentioned here in front of you. They take shelter of insatiable lust. They are absorbed in conceit of pride and false prestige, always want to unclean work and attracted by impermanent. They say, I'm the controller and the enjoyer. They think I can be the controller. I'm perfect. I'm powerful. My enemies are defeated and I'm happy. I'm the Lord of everything that I survey. So this is the demoniac mentality explained in these texts. And finally, what are the results of those demoniac work are explained in the 16th text. They are perplexed by various anxieties. And then what happens to them? Because of those anxieties, they get entangled in the networks of illusion. And then it is explained, because they become too strongly attached to sense enjoyment, they fall down to the hell. We saw that in text 16. And then what are they preaching? They're preaching they're envious of God, saintly persons and scriptures. They disregard scriptures. They proudly perform sacrifices, niyamagraha, only for the sake of it and without following any rules or regulation. Preach that whatever path one creates his own path, there is no standard path. So they say, oh, you take any train, you go to Mumbai. Like Prabhupada gives that example, right? You buy a ticket of Calcutta, you're in the aeroplane. Now you're going to Calcutta, you tell the pilot, I want to go to Bombay. That's not going to happen. So similarly, all paths don't lead to the same place. Others concoct their own God. Some preach that God is dead. Others say you're all yourself God. So this is their preaching of people who are demoniac by tendency. You see, so when you come across, please don't blame them. You can blame the deceased, not the person. So these people have such demoniac preaching, and we see this very, very prevalent in our society today, unfortunately. But having read this beautiful 16th chapter, it gives us such an amazing view when we walk out in the world and see so many bad things are happening. Krishna is already telling us. So we have a very crystal clear vision of how the world is going at the moment, actually, and how we can help the world. And what is the fate of these people? We just went through it. They are perpetually cast into various demoniac wombs in the ocean of material existence, attaining repeated birth among demoniac species. Such persons can never approach me. They gradually sink down to the most abominable type of existence, and they glide down to hell. Om Tat Sat. I hope that last part was helpful. Just a quick recap for everybody. I think we are doing very, very good for the time. I thought I've gone much over the time, but we are supposed to finish at 8:30, only 2 minutes over. So any question and answers for the last 15 minutes? Any comments, any reflections from these important section which we concluded today of text 20, all those demoniac tendencies, mentality, the preaching, the result of people with these such mentalities. So I'd like to ask if anybody has any questions or comments, or if reflection is not necessary a question, it's something which stuck in your mind and you can reflect back. You can also send a message through chat button. Any comments or questions? Anything which you didn't understand, or Puja Mataji is feeling sad at the fate of such demoniac people. That is the nature of a compassionate soul, Mataji. That's how Prahlad Maharaj felt when seeing his father and seeing the rest of the world not interested in Vishnu Bhakti. That's how Prahlad Maharaj was feeling. His heart was full of compassion for all the living entities. And when Lord Nrsingadev asked him for a benediction, he said, I don't care about myself. I'm already situated at your lotus feet, my Lord. I only worry about the people. So please liberate everybody else. And for that, I don't mind going back to spiritual world for as long as I can help other people to go back to spiritual world. At the age of 5 years, after being chastised, rebuked by his father, attempted to kill so many times, he still had the courage and audacity to go and preach to the children of the same age while his teacher Amarka and Sunanda were having a lunch break. He invited all the children, and all the children thought, let's play, Prahlad is calling us. And they all sat down in a circle, and Prahlad started to speak the philosophy of Krishna consciousness to them. And it is explained, Prabhupada writes in that purport, he said, because Prahlad Maharaj was so pure, and because he was a Mahabhagavad, the pure devotee of the Lord, although children they were coming from a demoniac family, wanted to play and do everything else, they all sat down and started to hear Prahlad Maharaj. And at the end of that chapter, they're glorifying Prahlad. Where did you get these amazing qualities, Prahlad? You could see already the result of hearing from Prahlad Maharaj. They had such a quick realization. This is what happens when you come in the association of the devotees. It is such an amazing pastime of Prahlad Maharaj in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, that just in that session, what he spoke and what he said was so illuminating and penetrating to the heart of those children that immediately there was a quality called gratitude which manifested in that association. And they were like, Prahlad Maharaj, where did you get these amazing qualities? Because they were really appreciating the message which Prahlad Maharaj had to say. So Mataji, yes, a Vaishnava always feels sad, and that's why he works for the benefit of everybody by distributing these books of Srila Prabhupada, by introducing the holy name, taking the holy name onto the streets. Why do you think Prabhupada wanted Gauranga, Nityananda, Hare Krishna Mahamantra to be chanted on the streets, so that even these people, when they hear unintentionally, they will get benefited? Nitai Mata is saying, no, sorry, Himalata Mataji is saying, demoniac activities in the Kali Yuga has led to distress and chaos in this material world. That's what I reflect. And we need to have a mercy of the Supreme Godhead to have ultimate self-realization, which is gained by joining ISKCON. That is so nice, Himalata Mataji. Very, very profound realization. Absolutely. When we commit ourselves to this movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, not only for our own sake, but also for the benefit of others, then we are not able to just move the stones. We can even move the mountains like Hanuman. We can do that to our capacity. To bring somebody closer to Krishna is much bigger task than moving a mountain. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that it takes gallons and gallons of blood to invite one person to come closer to Krishna. That's why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, What is that verse? How does it start? Somebody, maybe Rupa Mataji can help. She's good with verses, or anybody else. Some Mahatma Sudurlabha, it ends like that. What is the beginning of that verse? Anyone? We have quite a few pundits on the call. I'm sure somebody can help me with that verse. Anyway, if it comes to your mind, let me know. Any other comments?
Bahunam
Vasudeva
Bahunam
Sarvamiti.
Bahunam Janmanam Ante.
Janmana.
Ante.
Yes, who was
Bahunam
that?
Janmanam Ante
Jnanavan Mam Prapadyante
Jnanvan
Vasudevam
Mam
Sarvamiti.
Prapadyate Vasudevam Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Siddhartha.
Durlabha.
Haribol! Well done, Rupa Mataji and everybody. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Amazing. Any other comments or reflections?
Hare Krishna
Maybe we
Prabhuji.
can hear from Hare Krishna,
Dandavat
Rupa
pranams.
Mataji. Yes.
I was just thinking, some people, obviously, so many people are atheist and everything. So many people don't believe in a next life, and because they can't see next life, and we can't prove to them that
Yes.
there is next life. So, like all
Yes.
these hells we are talking about, um, uh, so many people are suffering as well. So sometimes the karma of this life is carried to next life, but some of the karmas are also like the results are also in this life. So some demonic species, or if somebody has done bad karma, so many, you can see some human bodies, they are suffering in human bodies, and so all this suffering, that is visible. Next life is not visible to everybody, but people suffering in this life is visible. Sometimes the bodily ailments, mental ailments, these can be a proof that, bad karma leads to this result. So that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. No, it's a very valid point. So sometimes is by sometimes, what happens is when you're in the midst of the suffering yourself, you're not able to see it with so much of clarity than somebody else, like the example you gave. So for such people, philosophy may not work sometimes by trying to tell them, dehinos min yatha dehe and all these things, you're going to have another body. It may not work in that when people are in the thick of the suffering. But in that moment, if we can comfort them, if we can become their friends and offer them any help they need, and at the same time try to offer them philosophy alongside that, that has a better effect. So to endorse your wonderful realization, if you then kind of show them that, okay, yes, okay, if you don't believe, understandable, but look at, this person is suffering, that person is suffering, and all this is due to the bad karma, and that sometimes starts to make a lot of logic to the people actually. And that's why having people come to the point to understand that whatever we are is because of our previous activities today. And that's why Lord Brahma is saying in his prayer, Tatenu Kampam Susumikshamano, he's saying that, oh my Lord, I'm supposed to be suffering so much, but you have reduced my suffering by giving me this much punishment. I deserve much more than this. And you have only reduced my suffering. You're so merciful to me. You're teaching me a lesson. I'm supposed to get so much, but somehow you're only given me this much. That's the mood of the devotee. And for such a devotee, he's saying it has become his rightful, it has become his right to attain to the spiritual world. Such a person is completely eligible, actually. Thank you so much, Mataji, for that realization. Any other
Thank
comments
you,
from
Prabhuji.
anyone?
There used to be a Prabhuji who used to say that, some people are in so much material enjoyment and they are so much enjoying at the moment. If you preach to them, they will just not believe this. So just leave me alone because we are enjoying. So he said,
Yeah.
if you don't believe that there is, suffering, you just go to the hospital, see the suffering, children, people. So he used to say that because we can't see at certain times in our lives we are enjoying so much that we can't see the suffering unless we suffer or something. So, if you visualize hospitals, where people are suffering, or very poverty where people are suffering, then you can realize what is suffering actually.
Yeah, it's a very good point. I wouldn't say, I mean, I wish I have more realizations, but today I was at the hospital, and let me tell you, after the lockdown, I mean, I traveled quite a distance to get my vaccination today, but my experience was, I had never been to a hospital place as crowded in the last 1 year as the hospital. Like there was no place to park the car. I went around the hospital a few times, somehow managed to find the parking, and all the car parks were overflowing. People were parking everywhere because if any place right now in the world, you go in any city, if it is crowded, it's not nightclub, it's not pubs, it's not, but it's hospitals. And that itself is an evidence of how much the world is going through the suffering right now. And that's why there is an individual karma and there is a collective karma. When they both come together, there is a chaos, unfortunately. But the more we chant, the more we try to help others with their Krishna consciousness, the better the world is going to become. And that was the idea of Srila Prabhupada. He wants every town and village the holy name to reach. And the more we can do it, the better it is, you know. So thank you so much for that. Any other comments? Maybe we can, if we, we can hear from Deepak Prabhu, who joined us for the first time, or Anita Mataji, if she has any comment she likes to, Mataji, you want to make of your
Hare Krishna
experience
Prabhuji,
today?
this is Rita Mataji over here. I asked a question on the
Okay.
chat.
Oh,
Could you
sorry,
please see that one?
I missed out, but please go ahead. Rita Mataji, your question is, oh, here. How can a person get free from such demoniac people who are found just around us, who just don't care? Okay, that's a very nice question. So sometimes, how can a person get free from demoniac people who are found just around us, who just don't care? Okay, so Mataji, getting free from such demoniac people uh, is not so easy. One, there can be two reasons. If we are surrounded by somebody demoniac so close, or even or we're seeing those tendencies, one way is to accept, as the verse I just quoted from the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, to accept that whatever I'm having to go through is for my own tolerance and for it's my own purification. That this person's, even among relatives, it can happen. Somebody is trying to practice Krishna consciousness, but say husband or wife is not favorable, father, parents are not favorable. So many times it happens. Now we can't call them demon. They are not demons. It is just that
They're
they
not demon.
right
No,
now,
no.
their faith hasn't come to that level right now. But we can be
Right.
compassionate, and we can be at least be a good example and develop some tolerance, trying to be nice to them. I know it's not so easy, Mataji. So that's the one aspect to understand. I like what Radhanath Maharaj says, that everything which is happening to you right now, or every situation, try to accept it as a mercy of Krishna and try to progress in the path of Krishna consciousness. So that's the first element.
Yes.
The second element is, Mataji, to you see, in order to help others, if your sadhana is strong, you can also give them love, prasadam, and in whatever way, whatever resonates with them. If not anything else, if they're not interested, just be nice to them. That's it. Because over a period of time, Krishna is also situated. We just heard he's Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam. He's also situated in their heart. Like I gave the example, if you fast on Ekadashi and
Yes.
you're breaking your Ekadashi on the
Mm-hmm.
Dwadashi, you pray, you take the name of this person, say, Hare Krishna, I live with Divyanand Das. He's full of demoniac tendencies. So kindly, I offer my, I'm seeing these tendencies, but he's also your servant. He's forgotten it for the time being. I'm breaking this fast on Dwadashi within the correct time. And I pray to you, my Lord, Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna, that please kindly offer the benefit of this Ekadashi fast I have done to this wonderful soul. So trying to do such acts in this way, you will benefit people who may have those tendency. That's the second point. And the third point, Mataji, is Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that when we are seeing the demoniac tendencies in others, they are actually nothing but the reflection of our own tendencies in others. Because we haven't reached such a level where we are practicing our Krishna consciousness so wonderfully. Because if you have, then you will be Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam Gyatva Mam Shantim Rachati. And not only that, you will understand, but you will also understand Suni Cheva Pakecha Pandita Samadarshina. You will see everybody on the same platform, you see. But because you're not at that level, then understand that even I have certain tendencies, and what I'm seeing is actually my own reflection. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, when we look at other fonts, it's better to also first look at inward ourselves, how many faults and bad tendency I have. Who am I to judge anybody?
Yes.
So these are different aspects for a devotee, Mataji, to look at. I hope I was able to answer your question, Mataji, to some degree.
Yes, Prabhuji, Divyanam Prabhuji, yes, that's what I think. When a person like myself, I always say, when I point to someone, first of all, the four fingers which are pointing towards me, or the three fingers, I have to look towards myself, my inner self. Then I sort of understand always. When I have a problem or anything, that's what I do. Thank you for your explanation.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much,
much.
Mataji. Wonderful. I have a
Thank
comment
you.
from Deepak Prabhu, who's saying that I'm glad to be introduced to these enlightening session. I'm very happy, Deepak Prabhu, that I came in touch with you. We have message from Anita Mataji also, who joined us for the first time. She's saying thank you, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Anita Mataji, for your time. So we will bring this evening to close. But the essence of the session from today is really embrace Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita in your life. Try to stay close to these literature. Try to stay close to them. Keep them next to your bedside table. Have them visible as far as possible in the home. Ajay Mukunda Prabhu, your hand is up. Would you like to share something, Prabhu?
Sorry, that was a mistake, Prabhu. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So, but I guess that hand going up is an endorsement of what I was trying to say, because Ajay Mukunda Prabhu is very sincerely studying Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam as well. So please take these two literatures very, very seriously and read them, study them, chant the holy name, and perfect our life. So we will continue tomorrow's session. I think tomorrow we will have, I believe, Divya Gaurangi Mataji, because we swapped the session. And then over the weekend, we will be with Vrindavan Chand Prabhu, and I will be back on Monday. Until then, please look after yourself and stay Krishna consciousness. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhu bevacha patitanam
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna,
Thank
Prabhuji.
you
Hare
very
Krishna.
much, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.